Hey everyone, thanks for listening. We got a chance today to sit down with Aaron Kortz, the Director of Worship Arts, as well as Michael Peterson, who is the Director of Communications and Technology, and talk about different ways that we have shared our faith, how social media and communications have changed how we do that. It was an awesome time, and I really, really enjoyed talking to these guys, and hope that you enjoy. All right, and we're good to go. So we this is the first podcast, the very numero uno, as we get to start this off. So
Hopefully the best one.
yeah, well,
Or hopefully not the best one.
Yeah, I was say if it's the best one, then we probably should go uphill from here instead of downhill from here. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad we get to do this. Like, sit down and have discussions about not just what's going on here at Emmanuel, but everything else that's going on in other churches, or just kind of the church in general. Whether it be sermon series that we have going on, or things that have ministries around here. I don't know. It's talking with other people from the congregation about their life and how God's worked in that. I just think that it's a good avenue to be able to
just church stuff overall.
Yeah, to be able to start with
church in general.
Faith stuff.
Yep. Though this is not the official anything podcast, not the official Emmanuel podcast, not the official LCMS podcast, not the official anything podcast. So we're not necessarily speaking for anyone except for ourselves, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, we all work here, so we know what we're talking about, and we
like to think so. Yes.
Yeah, but we're just normal guys that decided we wanted to sit down and talk about, our everyday kind of thoughts on what's going on.
Whatever it is.
Whether it be in the world or just, with our church kind of view, our lenses that we see everything through working at a church and being Christians and being Lutheran and how we see everything. I think it's just important to be able to sit down and have those discussions. And, we can't do that with every single person all the time. So we get to do that here and share that with people, and hopefully it's something that resonates with people, and they get to get a little something out of it, whether it be just the fact of we're kind of goofy guys, or whether it's the fact that some more deeper thoughts and insight on stuff.
Yeah, well, and hopefully everyone gets an opportunity to kind of see us as people, normal people. I think we see a lot of people. I guess I'm thinking of myself specifically. Being a worship leader, and I guess you and me, Josh, being on video announcements. People see us a lot, but don't necessarily maybe know who we are, or know who we are, but don't know a whole lot about us. Not that it's a bad thing, but I think this kind of offers us an opportunity to, kind of give people more of an in-depth look at us, I guess. Get to know us a little better, and we like to get to know other people a little better. But there's a lot of people in the church, so hopefully this is kind of an avenue to maybe get a little more of a look into our lives as as staff people at Emmanuel, as Christians, as Lutherans, and and you said too, hopefully we can kind of do the same thing with other staff members here at Emmanuel, have them on the podcast and get more of a look at what they do here at church and how their lives have gone and their perspectives as Lutherans and as Christians, and just kind of an all-around encompassing experience and opportunity for communication with everyone that works here at the church.
Well, when I was at my first call in Michigan, it was a smaller congregation, not really small, but smaller-ish, and smaller than here, and I got to know people, and I was pretty comfortable, especially being on internship. For those of you who don't know what you do after you become a DCE, Director of Christian Education, you have a year of internship that's still considered schooling, and then the church that you're interning at decides if they want to call you or not. And I was pretty comfortable with getting to know people and this kind of stuff, And when I got here, I was just like, I don't know anybody's names. And it wasn't even just when I got here, I was here for 2 years now. It's there are so many people that are like, hey, Josh. And I'm like, hey, buddy, hey guy.
And that's the thing, and they know you.
friend.
They know you because they know you're on staff. But yeah, there's a lot of people to keep up with, and it's hard too when you have so many services. I mean, it's not that many, but it's you've got 4 on the weekend, you've got 5 if you count North, and then you've got 6 if you count Wednesday night. And people generally go to
I
their
think we would
specific
count
service.
all of those because they're all services.
Yes. Well, I'm thinking outside. Yes, that's true. Absolutely, we would count all of those. I'm thinking outside of your quote unquote standard here at the Emmanuel Belvedere campus weekend services. And so yeah, when everyone goes to the same service, it just gets kind of hard. You almost get like little subgroups kind of in the church.
Yeah.
And so if you only go to, or if you generally go to, fill in the blank service like 9:30 or whatever,
You know those people.
You know those people, and you, at least most of them probably, but then you miss out on the other one. So yeah, you don't, even with, we've got 600 people or, sometimes north of that worship here every weekend. And so you kind of have a hard time getting to know everyone because that's a lot of people, and a lot of them you don't see all that often.
Well, I mean, I just have a terrible memory too with people's names.
Then there's that side of it too.
That doesn't help if you're not like, super smart about, remembering things like that. So
I am absolutely not. So
most people know
I'm in that boat.
And especially I think as a youth director, I think a lot of people, see as like the goofy guy that plays dodgeball all the time and then does the funny video announcements where you fall down and act silly and all it is.
He's basically just a big kid.
Yeah, right. And I mean, I am, but at the same time, being able to have deeper conversations, I think is a thing. I mean, it's great examples on the wall, like this beautiful tapestry that we have as a background. Yes. I mean, it's super awesome. We found this, and I don't know.
You found it. I don't even remember where you found this.
I found this somewhere, and I mean, it's
here at the church, right? You found it here at the church somewhere?
I don't remember if I found it at the church or where I found this, to be honest. It looks like a rug. I mean, it is a rug, but I think like.
Is it for sure a rug though? Because it doesn't really like.
I don't know what it is, but
it doesn't seem like it's quite thick enough to be a rug. But I don't know.
Maybe somebody could be like, "Oh, I know where that came from," or whatever it is. I mean, I don't remember where I found this, but it was like balled up in a corner somewhere, like just collecting dust. And I was like, what a great way to show off our staff and the fact that we love Jesus just like the disciples. And it's kind of goofy and funny, but like people would see that and be like, oh, that's just being goofy and being funny. And it's like it is, but there's a lot more to people here on staff or people here that go to church that get to be a part of that. And so it'll be nice to be able to sit down and have those conversations and share those with other people. Like we were talking before, and I don't want to sound conceited because it's not like everybody wants to sit in on our conversations, and we're not that important to people. But I think sometimes when we sit down,
really.
Yeah. But I think sometimes when we sit down and just get to talking about whatever, I think that there's a lot of value in others being able to hear that and know what that is, because I think communication is the most important thing. I mean, there's so many new ways that hey, could you do me a favor? Will you grab my water out of that backpack? Thanks. Sorry, I'm super thirsty.
You're good.
But I think that there's a lot of value in that communication, and there's so many new ways to be able to do that. I mean, podcasts aren't new. It's essentially radio, but
it's being disseminated a different way. It's like the radio on the internet, kind of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've gone through the ebbs and flows of what everything is. You've gone from, like your talk radio, even like they still have it now, but like NPR, which was, your public access radio kind of a thing.
PBS of radio, kind of.
PBS of radio. And, even your TV with like PBS. And like, I mean, back in the day, didn't you be able to do like local shows? Like you could be like, I'd like to do like a cooking show. And then you could go into like a TV station, in like super tiny small town, and they'd be like,
just record it and
you just
put it up there.
You just put it on live, and you're like, I get to do this. And it's so different now, especially with the internet, that social media is now the new where you have your own social media, and if you have a file link, boom, you can put it out there. I mean, anybody can put a video of anything on YouTube to be able to share their thoughts or ideas about it.
Yeah, and people get famous that way and make a lot of money that way too. Like.
It's crazy.
Tons of money.
It's crazy how
Like 13-year-olds.
Oh no, the kid that does the toy box stuff. He's got toys in Walmart because Dennis always wants to
The
get
toy
them.
box stuff. I've not
Toy
seen this.
unboxing. So like he just opens up toys. His parents buy him toys and he opens them up. I forget the kid's name.
I think it's like Ryan Toys.
Ryan's Toys. Yeah,
Yeah.
Ryan's Toys. Yeah. He just his
That's
parents
all he
buy him
does?
toys.
Yep.
So his parents buy him toys. Sometimes they do videos where like his parents are like playing with him and stuff like that. But his parents buy him toys. He opens them and he's like, "Oh, this one's so cool." And then his dad, who's kind of like I don't want to say a geek, but like a toy geek, is like, "Oh yeah, this is like the Superman action figure of whatever it is." And the kid made like $2 million.
Oh, it was like 26 million.
26 million. Yeah, like the
Yeah.
the year that
It was
the
insane.
year that I remember looking into it
Yeah.
because I was like, this is nuts. Like it was like it was like $2 or $3 million, and so like it
Is
makes
this
like
kid
23
old? Is this kid old enough to comprehend the difference between $2 million
No.
and $26
No.
million
No,
dollars?
No.
no, the kid was like
I think he's like 9 now.
yeah, like
or
9
10.
now.
Gosh.
He was like
Yeah.
5 when they started this.
Oh
It's
my
nuts.
gosh.
But there's so many different ways. I mean, that's you
Mm-hmm.
know one avenue. That's just YouTube unboxing. He's got like millions of views on his stuff. Millions of views.
That's crazy.
and
But that's the way it's going.
well, and it's
people
all
are interested.
It's
in
all
that stuff.
well, not people, little kids. I mean, it's all kids
saying,
like
like,
Dennis's age are
but-
sitting there like
but if you
just
want-
clicking on it.
If
over
you have
and
something,
over.
if you have something that you think people are going to be interested in, that is the place to put it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, so you have social media, and you know, I mean, Facebook is still a thing that we do. It's not the most prevalent in younger ages. I mean, you have
No.
Instagram or TikTok, that kind of stuff.
Right.
Which
Twitter, even.
Twitter, yeah.
Yeah.
Twitter's more. I feel like Twitter is more of like business wise for a lot of stuff because everybody's got a Twitter account, and that's where you go to see a lot of like
Yeah.
like serious things like and Facebook is more generally like things you're sharing with your friends. I feel like Twitter is you share it with a lot of people, and Instagram is just pictures,
Yeah.
videos,
Well,
and then
and-
TikTok is what, like, is it like 15 seconds, 15-second videos? It's like
could
what
be.
Vine used
My
to
understand,
be.
yeah, my understanding is that TikTok is like the new Vine, like
Yeah.
a more fully functioning Vine,
Yeah.
which is awesome because, Vines
Yeah.
were pretty funny.
Vines were really funny, but I mean, there's not really a lot of like, here's the important information you need to know about on TikToks or even sometimes on
that's true.
Instagram.
Facebook, I feel like Facebook has gotten so big that I feel like people forget that it's like still a private company. Like people forget that like, no, this isn't like a government run page, or this isn't like, this is
It's not the USPS. It's not the United States
Yeah.
Postal Service where it's government run, but it seems like it's
but it seems like just like, I don't even know what word I'm looking for, like a general domain type of thing.
Yeah.
Like it's still a private company.
well, it's the same thing with Google. I mean, you
Yeah.
forget that Google's like a company. It's not just.
Yeah, you just Google things.
I mean,
like, that just become synonymous for a web
Google's
search.
literally a verb now.
Yeah, you Google stuff.
I'm
but-
Googling stuff. Like
Yeah.
even if it's just to look it up, I'm Googling things, which is crazy. But
Same, same thing with Kleenex.
Kleenex. That's true.
That's
Let
not
me get a
technology
Kleenex.
related, but
Let me get a. I mean, I didn't
let me
think
get a
about
Kleenex.
that.
Yeah,
I didn't think about that
They're
because Kleenex is
tissues.
a brand.
yeah. Kleenex is
It's
a
a
brand
tissue.
of tissues. That's how you know you've got a monopoly on something.
You just blew my mind with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that it's great to be able to do all of those different things. I mean, it's like when we started live streaming. Was it 2 years ago? A year and a half ago?
Oh, it's been probably
longer,
4
yeah.
or 5.
Oh, really?
It's
Oh.
been a bit. Yeah.
Well, when we started live streaming, not just for people that, that week aren't able to go to church, but you have a lot of people that just can't go to church, that aren't able to get there for a variety of reasons. And for them to be able to have something that they can connect, and even if it's not a connection where they can respond back, but a connection where they can just be like, hey, like I get to be a part of this. It may be one-sided where I can only listen and maybe type something back, but at least they get to engage in that one-sidedness. And that's what I think, again, it's, when it all goes back to sharing the gospel, I think that the most important thing when it comes to sharing the gospel is that relationship, is the relational stuff. And, you can do that by scripted things. You could sit down and be like, this is what I'm reading and this is how I'm reading it. And this is, the Bible study or the Bible reading we're saying today. Sometimes you have Bible study or not Bible studies, like devotions that you read, and a lot of them are not generic, but they're they're written down, so they're scripted. But I think that the relationship comes when it's not that scriptedness. That intimacy comes when you get to actually sit down and like we do right now, like just have a conversation and talk about, you know, what we're thinking and why we're thinking it and why it's important to us. And that's where you get to build that back and forth. So even if, you know, you're doing this not in front of microphones, which by the way, I like the setup. I don't mind.
I think it's solid.
It's a very nice setup.
I mean,
yeah.
it's definitely in my office, so
Yeah.
I don't get to
You
go out
totally
much.
can't tell though.
Yeah, no. But I think that if you're not, even if you're not, you know, in behind a microphone, behind a computer, being able to talk to, you know, whatever or whoever, if you're doing that in real life, that's again where it comes, is those relationships, is as you build those relationships and get to have those kind of spontaneity moments, so spontaneous moments where, you know, it's just enjoying life together. That's where that comes, and then that love of Christ that we see that we talk about, you know, comes through us, flows through us into others. And it's not always, you know, a devotion. It's not always a Bible verse. Sometimes it's just talking or having fun or being there for somebody, or, you know, just chatting about whatever, you know, was going on.
Yeah, and that can be hard to do, and sometimes you have to be really, really intentional about it. And I think about from my perspective as a staff member here at church, and as a leader of sorts, you know, I've got different musical groups that I am in charge of, wanting to build relationships with the people that are in your group, and try to not just be the quote unquote leader. You know, it's like I'm out here and I talk to you guys because I need to, and because I need to tell you what to do, and then after that we're done. Like it's worth it to intentionally try to build relationships with people, because then after you have that, when you go back into your leadership role and you're like, all right, we're doing this thing, whether it's musically or whatever, you are able to relate to the people that you are talking to more because you have that relationship with them. And it makes the leadership side of it easier when you've got the relationship side. And so, you know, and that's a little bit different than what you were saying. But yeah, the whole idea of relationships, especially when you are working in a church setting or, you know, a work setting too, is really, really important. And so, yeah, I agree that hopefully this can be a way to do that a little bit, even though, yeah, like you said, it's kind of one-sided. You know, we can bring people in that hopefully you can hear a little bit more about in a way that you would not have otherwise.
Let me ask you this, because I know that this is a question that a lot of people have. If you're being intentional about, you know, loving somebody or caring for somebody, and you're being very intentional about that, but you're in the back of your head, I want to say, or part of that intention is sharing Jesus. Some people would say that that's not, that's a little backhanded, a little schemy, because you're not really loving that person for loving that person. You're loving that person just so you get to share Jesus with them. Now, I have mine, but I guess I just want to ask, like, what do you think about that? Because, you know,
so you're saying,
you could
like,
take it both ways.
You're asking, like, is it dishonest to try to form a relationship with someone for the sole purpose of...
Well, I don't know about its sole purpose, but for having
primary
that be
motive.
one of the purposes, yeah.
I don't think so. I think that if you are... First of all, I don't ever think that... Well, I shouldn't say ever. I don't think that it is, well, maybe I can say ever. I don't think it's ever a bad thing to share the gospel with people.
Yeah.
I think that's always a good thing to do.
Okay.
So I guess in that sense, I mean, obviously I believe that the gospel is the most important thing in the entire world. And so if there is someone that doesn't know the gospel or hasn't thought about it or whatever it is, I think that it's really, really important to share that with that person. And so if that means, and I think that it many times should mean forming a relationship with them first, and then introducing the idea of the gospel and the good news of the gospel to them after. I think that's fine. And I think each situation is probably going to have to be different.
Oh yeah,
because
every
people are
situation.
different.
Yeah, every situation ends up being something. You know, it's all, they're all based on their own individual. I mean, it's like individuals.
But I guess I have a hard time I guess maybe it's possible. I have a hard time imagining a situation where you really had, I guess, quote unquote, sneaky alternatives in getting to know someone so you can share the gospel, because I think that everyone needs to know the gospel. So
Yeah.
if that's your, if that's your motive, then I think that's always a good motive.
Well, and that's my thought on that is very similar. Is that, if you love somebody, if you genuinely love somebody, you generally want to at least tell them about Jesus. You generally want to be able to do that. And so I don't think that, and then if they don't want anything to do with that, you can still love them. You can still be friends with them or hang out with them or have them be in your life. I don't think that it's a bad thing. I think, though, that if you go into a relationship, friendship or whatever it is, with the intent of, well, I'm going to tell this person about Jesus, I'm telling you, I think that can be a little disingenuous. I think that can be, if that's the reason that you go into it. If you go in because I enjoy being around this person, and I like them, and I do really care for them, and because I care for them, I want to be able to share the gospel with them. That's a very, genuine, thoughtful idea. But I think that if you go in right away with the idea of, well, I have to, that I think that can cloud the idea of, I'm really supposed to just like love on this person.
Right.
I'm not saying that you shouldn't do it, but I'm saying that if your genuine motivation is,
I guess if you're
that's it.
If you're at a point where you would say, if I share the gospel with this person and they say, all right, cool, I'm not really all about that, and then that's the end of your relationship with them, that's probably not a good thing.
Yeah.
And it's still good that you shared your faith with them. But yeah, if that relationship ends, if it just completely ends there, then I would understand why that person would probably feel like you're being kind of sneaky.
yeah, being weary of that.
Yeah. I actually, so I went to school at Concordia, Nebraska, which a lot of you know. And my first year roommate was in a lot of ways not at all like me. He was not a Christian. He was,
Short and bad at music.
yeah,
just
right. Short, but very, very athletic.
Yeah.
No, he,
You run a lot.
yeah,
That's athletic.
I would call myself athletic. I'm not super coordinated. I'm like half and half.
Yeah, but
It depends on the definition of athletic.
Okay,
I
I
feel
guess
like
that makes sense.
I would call myself
You can run
generally athletic. I can run. I
a
can't.
long time.
Yeah,
Fast.
yeah.
That's athletic.
If you watched me swing a baseball bat, though, you'd be like, all right, he's like 5 out of 10 on the coordination factor. Or if you watched me shoot a basketball, you have seen me shoot a
I have.
basketball.
I don't think it's not terrible.
Thank you. I
You're welcome.
appreciate that.
Well, I mean, you're throwing yourself out there like you're Steve Urkel. I mean,
Yeah, all right, that's fair. That's fair. I am pretty athletic. Can
Yeah.
we say that? Okay.
we're not all LeBron James, Bo Jacksons over here.
Yeah.
So
Unfortunately.
anyway, so your roommate.
Anyway, so my roommate, I would call him an atheist. I think he had a lot of people that had, well, he didn't grow up in the faith, any faith, and it's kind of hard to put people into boxes. I wouldn't call him an agnostic, which is more of a, there might be a God, there might not. I think he was pretty like, I don't think there's a God, and he wasn't necessarily like specifically anti-religion. I just think that he thought it was
Not a thing.
It was not a thing. Yeah, it was like he thought it was a little ridiculous for people to believe that there was some sort of like any
Higher being or whatever.
being or big force that was influencing the world. And I don't know how I do know how he ended up at a Concordia. It was the absolute worst place for him, and he only lasted a year. He was from Arizona, and he got to Nebraska, and he was like, "There's nothing out here."
Don't you guys have
everyone
a-
is Christian.
Don't you guys have a Target and that's it?
We have a Walmart.
Oh, Walmart.
Walmart,
Oh no, that's
McDonald's.
that's Concordia Mequon that has like a Target that's like a mile away, and that's it that they have there.
Mequon, though, is closer to Mequon's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but it's more of a like a
Suburbish.
suburban feel
Yeah.
out in the middle. Like Mequon, I think. Shouldn't quote me on this. The county that Mequon is in, which I do not even remember the name anymore, it's the second or third richest county in the United States.
Oh,
like
geez.
it's the northern end of Milwaukee. Apparently, like far north Milwaukee.
Huh.
Apparently, is pretty well to do. But yeah, we got a Walmart, we got a McDonald's, we got a Pizza Hut. Seward actually is. I really liked being all the way out there in the rural area. We were like 20 minutes from Lincoln, which is a decent sized city. But anyway, he was not he was not in a place that made sense for him. So
Yeah.
he came from Arizona. He was like, everyone's Christian out here. And I'm like, well, it's a Lutheran college. What did you think you were getting yourself into? I think he came for football. Like, he wasn't great at football. So he was like, oh, NAIA school that'll pay me money. So he was there for football and wasn't really in a great place for him. And he was not a Christian. And so, but he figured out pretty quickly that I was a Christian, and the couple of the guys that we hung out with were Christians. And it was an interesting scenario because going to a Lutheran school and being involved in a lot of Christian groups, I didn't have a whole lot of experience with people who were not Christians. And so figuring out how to do that was kind of a strange thing. And it reached a point where he had so many people that had tried to, not even just Christian, like I guess he had a friend who was Mormon who had tried to kind of convert him. And he had a lot of experiences of people that had tried to witness to him or convert him or whatever you want to say. And he had reached a point in his life where he was just kind of done with it.
Yeah.
And so that kind of put me in an interesting place because I did talk to him about God, and, I shared my beliefs and my faith. And, there was even one point in time where I was sitting there reading my Bible, and he I don't remember what he asked specifically, but he was like, so what's the deal with this whole Bible thing or this whole Jesus thing? And so I showed him, I opened up, I was like, well, if you want it, quote unquote, gospel in a nutshell, I showed him John 3:16. It's like, here it is. This is kind of, if you're going to condense the whole Bible down to one thing, this is kind of what it is. I don't know what he took from it. And, he left after a year, and, I really haven't talked to him a whole lot since then. But he and I living together reached a point where, I realized that I had done as much sharing of the gospel as I could. And at that point,
Without jamming it down
his throat. And he was in a position, like, he was at a point where there really was not a whole lot you could do because he was pretty wary of it. And he just was not at an accepting point in his life, I guess. And so I kind of had to be like, all right, I understand where he is from this point on. He knows that I'm a Christian, and I am just going to try as much as I can to be a witness in that way for him to see how I live and be like, oh, that's interesting. That's different than
I think
other people in different ways.
I think the word that you used before that a lot of people and myself struggle with is the convert word. People are like, well, I'm trying to convert this person. And it's like, if that's what you're trying to do, that's that whole I have an ulterior motive, or I'm not being very genuine in how my relationship is, because my whole end goal is to convert you.
Yeah.
And it's like, first of all, being Lutheran, we know that we don't convert anybody. It's the Holy Spirit that does it. But second of all, like, that's not a relationship then. That's a project.
The word itself has got some weird connotations, kind of.
Yeah.
The way that we understand the word convert in our language. Yeah.
It makes it a project. It makes it like, okay, this is what I'm going to do is I'm here to be able to have this. And when I'm done with this, then great, you're fixed,
On to the next
one.
one.
On to the next one. Yeah. And it's like, that's not how relationships work. And that's not how genuine, people sharing their faith that have like a meaningful, lasting impact actually goes about. I mean, it is, finding those times. That's a great thing about that guy that you said is that, you probably not alluded, probably like gave off the like, hey, this is what's really important to me, and I know this, and you can tell this. And then when that one time came where he was like, so what's this all about? That's when you go, okay, this opportunity's here. I get to talk to him about this, and I can share this with him because he's asking me, and it's not me, trying to ram things down his throat or shove the gospel in his face. It's him coming to me and me going, hey, this is what it's about. And do you have any questions, whatever that may be, and being able to answer those and be there for him.
And different people are different. Like he was very closed off. Like he was very much at a point where he didn't want to hear any of it. And yeah, I think you're right. Like he kind of reached that one point, and that's the only time I can really remember of the whole time I was at college with him, which was a year. I think he made it the whole year. That was the only time I can remember him ever opening up just a little bit and asking anything about it. And I feel like people are just different, and there may be other people that you may talk to that are not Christian that are completely open. They're like, all right, let's hear it, and there you go. Like that's your invitation. And yeah, it just kind of, in that sense, I feel like it kind of has to be kind of a case by case.
Yeah,
thing.
It's a one by one basis on whoever you get an opportunity to talk to or have in your life or whatever that is. It's all individualistic because we're all individuals and we all have different preferences and ideas and thoughts and ways we have those ideas and thoughts. I mean, It was funny earlier. I was talking to Pastor Keith and I asked him a question and he was like, well, I got to think on that. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, just tell me what you think. And he's like, well, I have to think about it. And it's like, I am not that kind of a person. Like my wife is that kind of person. I know people like that really need to like contemplate and think through things. And I just say what's on top of my head. Like, I'm just like, okay, I can give you an answer in like 2 seconds. Unless it's a really big, you know, a big,
A huge decision.
or something like
See,
that.
I
Yeah.
I understand the thinking thing because that's how I am. I'm
No.
definitely all right. Allow me to contemplate, and I will come back with a solution.
I'll just tell you what's on my head and then what's on my mind. And then after, if I realize I was wrong, because I said
Then
right
you'll
away,
go back
I can
and
go back and be like,
amend
no,
it."
you know what? Probably wasn't right there.
See, that's the thing is I feel like I do the same thing. I wait to give my initial. I guess I don't know why I'm like this. Maybe if I thought about it, I could come up with an answer. But I wait to give.
I'm gonna get into his head and he's
I
gonna
wait
like,
to
be broken.
I know I'm not gonna get any work done today. I'm just gonna sit in my office contemplating how I contemplate things.
Yeah, it's gonna be this like infinite loop of I don't understand how I think. My
I'm gonna-
brain.
I'm gonna end up in the park somewhere, just sitting on the bench, like feeding bread to the ducks. Like, what is my life?
Yeah, just super confused.
But yeah, that's how I am. Is I don't give that initial. I wait, and then I contemplate. And they're like, all right, here's my thesis, and then I've got like my 3 paragraphs or whatever. I haven't written a research paper in a long time, but yeah, here's what it is. Whereas different people
So
don't
you're
do, some
you're a
people
research
don't do that.
you're a research paper and I'm Twitter.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just put out my 140 or what is it now?
I think it's
I
like
don't know how many
140.
140 characters. I think they doubled. I think it's like 280, but like 140 characters and then hit send. And I don't do what they ask NFL players to do. I don't think it through. I don't like take a day. I just send it. And then,
Well, good thing you're not an NFL player. You only work at a church.
yeah, good thing I'm not an NFL player. I don't think that was ever going to happen.
Yeah. Well,
Wasn't.
Interesting about that, from knowing you, it's like you do, like you said, you off the top of your head quick.
Yeah.
But like when it comes to stuff, well, let's say it's like buying something for you.
Oh
you,
yeah.
you take a long time.
Oh, I
to
do.
figure
Well,
that out.
it's because I'm worried I'm going to make the wrong decision.
I know.
And it's because I'm so compulsive about stuff is I sit here and I
Yeah.
wait forever to do stuff. And so unless it's not for me,
Yep.
like when my wife she needed a new car. And so I sold my car. I took her old car and then she got a new one. She's like, well, I can't decide this. And I was like, just get it. Just get whatever you want. Whatever you want, get it. Not whatever you want.
Yeah.
That would have been totally whatever you think, whatever you're thinking. And so, I'm okay with like doing impulse things for other people. But when it's for me, it's like, I don't
Yeah.
know, because my decision affects so many other people. So it's like, I want to make sure, but like their decision affects me. And I'm like, well, I can deal with it. I don't mind. It's not a big deal.
also, purchasing something is a little bit more difficult to take back than something you said. Maybe
Well,
that's not always true, but usually
Something really big.
as long
like
as
a
it's
car.
not something important.
I mean, we're going to retile my upstairs shower, and I already bought tiles for it because we thought knew what we wanted, and then we were like, you know what? No, I really like this other color, so we're going to take them back. I mean, that's not a big deal. It's a receipt. Just back to the home goods store.
See, that's
And-
too much work for me. I don't want it. I'm gonna think about it, and then I'm gonna get what I want, and I hate returning stuff.
Really?
Yeah, it's so annoying.
You just,
Having to wait in the customer service line, and then you got to remember to like, where's the receipt? You got to get it from wherever it is in your house, put it in your car. You got to drive it back. Sometimes you got to make a special trip.
Oh, your
which
life
is horrible.
so difficult.
It's not difficult. I'm just saying it is difficult. That is what I'm saying. I don't want to do it.
It's not that
But
bad.
if you can prevent it with some thinking,
Well, yeah.
then
But we did think through. We thought through this whole shower thing like for like 3 weeks, and we were like, okay, we're gonna go with like a lighter brown because the walls are brown, like our walls are tan in our bathroom. We're gonna go with like one that kind of matched that, and
then you change your mind.
well, no,
and brought it back.
Well, then what we changed our mind was we were like, we can paint the walls. Like that's dumb. Why don't we just paint the walls? And our floor tile is like a bluish, like dark blue with like some black in there, and so we're like, it would match absolutely perfect with either like how it's brown now, it brings out just like a little bit in there, or it's gonna be perfectly fine with the gray. And it was like we really liked the gray, like the gray, darker black kind of look, or whatever it was. And I really liked the certain look of a shower, and I didn't want to do it because that wouldn't have matched. But I was like, if we just paint the walls, it'll match. And painting the walls is the easiest thing in the world. So we did think it through, but then we had like this revelation of like, oh, duh. Like it's
So
just
you
the
kind of changed your
walls.
mind.
Well, I don't know if it was changing our mind. It was we originally wanted to do that, and then since we couldn't, we went to Plan B. But then we realized Plan A was still viable if we just tweak it a little bit, if that makes sense.
So it was a mini mind change.
Sure. You're just trying to convince me to be part of your point.
I'm trying to pigeonhole you as the Twitter person.
Yeah,
Like, no,
exactly.
You are the short. I have a Twitter. I never get on it.
No.
No, I don't. I don't have Instagram. I think I had Snapchat at one point, and then I got a new phone, and I like didn't re-log in. And I don't even put. Maybe I'm not the best person to have on this technology conversation
Well,
right now.
no.
I have Facebook, and I've had Facebook for a long time, but like I hardly ever post anything. I get on because I'm bored, and I like scroll through, and like, oh well.
I think it's good because it gives a good perspective because I am on my social media, not just because of my job, but just because of who I am. I'm on that pretty consistently. I scroll through my Instagram and Facebook a lot. I don't scroll through my Twitter because I don't follow anybody. Like, there's a lot of people that I know that follow like my nieces and nephews and stuff like that. Even my brother-in-laws, they all follow like celebrities, like a ton of them, and so they get to see like they have all these things in their feed. I don't have that many people that are like that. It's all like friends and like this and that. You know, there's a couple people on Instagram that I follow that I like seeing their stuff, but I don't follow a ton of people. So me scrolling through my timeline is literally just seeing like family and friend stuff,
Yeah.
which is kind of like what Facebook is. So I use it in the same context versus what I could use it for is, you know, seeing all sorts of different opinions or ideas or whatever it is. So I think it's nice. I think it's nice on that because you having the like a little bit more minimalist idea on there, and I'm totally like that. And I know that you have like your Twitter, like you do follow a ton of people from what I remember.
It's mainly other people that have, like, it's kind of like they follow and then I follow.
But you have people on there that like you enjoy what they do,
There's a few, yeah.
so you follow
But not
that and
like-
be able to see it.
Yeah, not.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, my Twitter is basically I follow. There's
Sports
a bunch
stuff.
of sports personalities or like the MLB page or the NBA page or what, and like that's basically it. Whereas Facebook is I've added everyone that I can think of essentially, and I don't necessarily go out like looking for people to add, but anyone that adds me, I'm like,
Oh, well, it comes
I
up
know
and
who
it's
you
like,
are. So yeah,
hey, do you think you want to be friends with this person? And I'm like, I mean, I didn't look them up for a reason. I mean, or I guess I didn't
Yeah,
think
right.
to look them up for, you know, like a reason maybe. So like, but it keeps telling me, and it's like, I guess maybe, I don't know. It's like being forced to be friends. It's like when your mom's
Kind
like,
of,
now you're
yeah.
gonna go play with this person, and you're gonna go.
we're gonna
you
make
know.
my mom would do that. We're gonna make some new friends today. And
And
as
it's
a kid,
like,
I was
I
like, okay. And right now, I'm like, I'm absolutely like, I'm not gonna do.
Yeah, I do not want to make new friends.
I do, but I don't want to go through the trouble of making. New
I don't. I have friends. I don't need to make new friends.
You've got
like,
enough.
Yeah, I got enough. I don't need new. Not that I don't want new friends. If it happens organically, it's weird when that's the thing. If it happens organically, it's just like the whole Jesus thing. You know, the whole sharing the gospel. If it happens organically, great. If it's forced, that's when it's like, oh,
Yeah,
it's
it gets
cringy.
awkward pretty
Yeah.
quick, especially as adults who are constantly thinking about, do I have enough friends? Am I a loser? Like, am I actually doing okay at this adulthood thing? Am I friends with enough people outside of, you know, like if you're married, like, do we need to have more couple friends? Like, there's so many ways that you can get like
Yeah.
freaked out about stuff like that.
Yeah, no. I just like if something happens organically like that. Like I said, like it was when my mom, I don't think I ever did this, but I've seen like, you know, TV shows or whatever. They're like, okay, you know, we're gonna go or you're gonna be friends with this person. Like they're new here. Well, I did have that one time. We had somebody moving down the street. My mom was like, go down and say hi, and I'm like, fine. And they're cool. They're nice. We hung out. We became kind of friends. You know, not super good friends, but we became kind of friends. And it wasn't bad, but it was just like awkward because like, you know, it was back in the day too where I couldn't like text him or find him on like, you know, Instagram and be like, hey, what's up? I live down the street. I had to like go down and like,
Every single time.
Knock on the door and be
you wanted to
like,
see them, yeah. You had to
hi,
literally go see them.
and I don't know his name. So I'm like, hi, is your son home? And they're like, oh yes. You look around his age. It's like, hi, do you want to go, you know, down and play basketball? Or hi, I'm Josh. Like, it's just, it was so weird to be able to do that kind of stuff.
Is your son home? Which
Yeah.
son do you want? I have 4 of them.
Well, that was the thing. They had
Which
to.
one looks like the
but
one you
yeah.
saw the other day?
Which one looks about my age, I guess? No. But if it happens organically, you're in school and you're, in the same classes and you just kind of get to know each other. Like
Yeah.
that's much the natural. I mean, that's why it's called natural. It's because that's how it happens. That organic, natural ability. And like I said, it's the same thing with sharing your faith. If it happens organically and naturally, it's so much better because you get a chance to really invest in that person. And you do care about them. I have friends that I do care about that, I know the gospel, but I know don't embrace the gospel. And I know they know it because, it's never been like a, driving in the car and I'm like, so what do you think about Jesus? Because like, that's just weird. But it's been those nights where you're, sitting, I'm from Iowa. So we're sitting in the back of a truck and like they're, after we were hanging out all day and goofing off and, the back of their truck at 11 o'clock at night in their driveway, out on their farm and just, looking up at the stars, just sitting around, whatever it is. And then it sounds like I was gonna say we're gonna start like holding hands or something like that. But like, like just sitting there and hanging out. And all of a sudden it's like, the universe, like that weird, like the universe is big. Like the sky's really big. And it's like, yeah. And then they're like, I always wondered about the whole God thing. And then of course, they know what I do for a living. So they're like, what do you, what is, what's the real thing? And then it's like, like there's the opportunity. It's actually naturally came about to be able to do it. You always want to be vigilant for it. But if that's the only thing you're looking for, you miss so many other opportunities just to be there. And then it doesn't happen organically if you're not there for somebody. I feel like if you aren't opening yourself up and loving somebody right where they're at, it doesn't happen. And it doesn't make it.
I thought maybe you were going to say, I am describing the most stereotypical rural America thing right now. Sitting in my truck, watching the stars, and the sun setting.
No, the sun was already set. We were inside. I forget what we were doing. I think we were playing pool. It was one of my buddies.
So this is an actual situation.
Yeah, it was an actual situation. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I've had the exact same thing.
Yeah, right. And and it's one of those things where then you carefully get to explain the gospel in a way that allows them to go, huh? And especially, being a church worker, not trying to like coerce somebody, but you can word it in a way that you can draw out some questions or you can draw out some conversation with them to where, you can continue that dialogue versus just, well, Jesus loves you. This I know, because that's such a close-ended thing. Like, then here's my statement. But being able to, do that and then like, ask them, like, what do you think?
Yeah, if they're in a position where they are genuinely inquisitive about it, they're more likely, to have a conversation about it as opposed to you just making a statement. Be like, okay.
Well, and that goes all the way back to the beginning of, if you get to have a conversation, which was why I wanted to do this, why I think this is important, is that conversation can allow for so much more context, so much more detail, so much more of how it's affected you and your story in and with that and other stories versus a written statement versus something that is scripted. Because when that happens, that person reads it and goes, okay, this is what it is. But there might be so much more to that can be put in a broader perspective and put into that picture and paint it in when you get to have an actual conversation dialogue.
And kind of going off of that too, I feel like in terms of Christianity, especially in our country today, people already have so much of their own context and their own even bias that goes into like, well, what does it mean to be a Christian? People, especially people that aren't Christians, even people that are, probably get this. They each get their own ideas in their head. Is like Christian. Let's see. Well, Ben Carson was the Christian candidate in the last election, or Christians are the people that, fill in the blank, have super long hair. And
you have everything from, people think Christians are the people in the Crusades that are, swinging swords and forcing people to do this, all the way to, Christians are the Joel Osteens of the world, to Christians are my local pastor who's like the nicest dude in the world, and I see him at Starbucks.
Or throw
every
in
day.
all the political slants that like Christianity has been involved in, like now and over the years. And I think
there's a bias that goes along with that, and everybody has that.
And each person's is probably a little
skew.
different. But if you're able to actually have a talk with them instead of just here's the Christian thing I wanted to say, and then they fill in the blanks in their own head. If they're able to see you and know you as a normal person, and you're able to have that discussion with them about Christianity, about your faith, or whatever it is that's come up, it kind of humanizes it a little bit. It's like, oh, well,
Well, it gets rid of that preconceived notion.
yeah, like this Christianity thing could be different than the ideas that I have in my head about it
Yeah.
right now
Yeah.
already.
And that could be good and it could be bad. I mean, somebody could have, you want to be careful with how you go about, not to scare people off from talking about their faith, but you also do want to be careful with how you share your faith, because if you're so comfortable in it and it's such a natural thing for you, it can be scary for somebody that has no idea, has never had experience for that, or if their experience has only been negative. I have a friend that their experience with the church was a church that their parents went to when they were younger, and it's nowhere around here. It's not even in Iowa. And the church, when their parents, somebody wanted to get married in their family, I forget who it was, and they went to go do that. They sent this person's parents a letter saying, well, you haven't given offering in the however many years you haven't been going here. If you could make that up, we'd be happy to do the wedding. Essentially, you missed out on tithing, you missed out on your offering, and so therefore we need you to. That was his experience. That was his whole experience, from when he can remember, being in like middle school-ish age. And he's like, but if he didn't know me, that would have been it. But since he knew me, as just a normal person that we used to bowl together and do this and do that, and then the Jesus part kind of went alongside that, but became more prevalent as we got closer and closer, and he realized how important that is to me. It's changed his view. It's changed his view a lot of the church, and even being able to sit down, he's like, I don't like the church for this reason. And I'm like, well, that's not how all churches are at all. Mm-hmm. That's not how majority of churches are. It allows for that to do that. He never would have brought that up to me if we weren't friends beyond me, if I was trying to convert him. It would have never gotten to the point of him being able to say that.
You already had the relationship.
You have to have that relationship. I think that, and that's, again, that preconceived, like, well, I want to convert somebody. If that's what you're going into it for, it's not going to work. And it's not that you want to convert, whether it's going to work or not. That's not important. It's you go into those for genuine relationships. You are around people and with people and have a relationship with somebody that you genuinely care about and just want to be around or just want to hang out with or just want to whatever. And then through that, if you find out they don't know Jesus, that's a part of your relationship that you're like, well, I get to share my faith with them, and we go from there. And they get to have a conversation or we get to talk about it. And it's, and that's what we want to do here is we want to, encourage people. We want to, I want to be able to share things that we're doing here. If it's people that, that go here are listening, I want to be able to share things we're doing here, cool things that we have going on, or coming up, and not necessarily like our video announcements where we're just promoting things, but, talking about them and why they're important. And then, like you said, there are so many interesting people in this congregation, in this community, that I think have such great stories about how God has worked in their lives. I think that being able to have them on and just, for me personally, being able to listen to them and learn from them, but then being able to share that with anybody that wants to listen, I think is just an extraordinary ability that we have in today's, media versus the way that it was. I mean, because think about how it used to be. I don't know any like celebrity people, but like think about it used to be for celebrities, right? Because I feel like we know famous people a lot closer and better than we do. Like Chris Pratt, it's perfect. Like he's the goofiest, funniest, like nicest dude in the history of the world. You might not know that if he was famous in the 90s, because what did you do if you were famous in the 90s? The only time you saw them was if they went on Jay Leno, and they got to talk for 5 minutes, and it was pretty scripted, and they asked the questions, like, well, so what do you think? Like, I got a new movie out, I don't know,
Or
and
if
then
you read about him in the newspaper or something.
yeah,
like
that was it.
Yeah.
But now you can follow his Instagram, you can follow his Twitter. On his Instagram, he does videos. They do this stuff, and they kind of let you into their lives, which maybe isn't good for them to be able to be like as, like everything I do is recorded. But it like you said, it humanizes somebody, and it's like, oh, they're not just like just big crazy celebrity above all other things, but they're a real person, or for sports figures or whatever it is. You get to have that, you feel like you have a relationship there. And again, it's one-sided, but you get to feel like, oh, I get to know them so much better. And I feel like, this allows that opportunity, not just for us, but, if I got to sit down with somebody and talk with them about, their life, man, like I get to kind of see into that, like we were talking earlier, like peek behind the curtain, and not in the negative way of, like the Wizard of Oz, which also, can I mention this? The Wizard of Oz is a terrifying movie that should not be for children.
My mother had nightmares about
My mom still
the
hates it.
monkeys.
Yeah, same thing. The
Flying-
monkeys.
Flying
She hates
monkeys.
Flying
monkeys.
monkeys get
Yeah.
a lot of people in that
Yeah.
movie.
They're
And
sketchy looking.
I guess I could see it. Yeah, I think I am not disagreeing that it's a terrifying
Yeah.
movie at parts. I feel like there is an extent to which people that are our age are a little weirded out by like really, really vintagey type stuff. Like we see like old Easter bunny costumes, and we're like, that is terrifying.
Oh, yeah.
But
Oh,
like
yeah.
the little kids back then, like it was the thing. There's something, or like really old like dolls. Like there's something about like pretty old stuff that that just like freaks us out a little bit. And I feel like there's a little bit of that kind of goes on
Well, here's
with stuff like. But my mom was seeing it when it wasn't quite that old, so
Here's the Wizard of Oz thing that gets me. All right, and it's same thing with kind of like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the original, not the one with Johnny Depp, but with
Gene
Gene Wilder.
Yeah.
Is a lot of times I feel like, especially since they have like music in them, and a lot of the music is very like dun 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 dun, dun. Like kind of like remember Winnie the Pooh when he had like he ate the honey and he was like
Oh yeah.
gone,
he
and
had
there were
that-
all the heffalumps that were
yeah,
just
that's
like
right. He had
there.
like that vision or whatever.
Yeah, it's like that. It's like that very like do 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 do, and it's a very like circusy, like oompa loompa, or whatever
Yeah.
it is in the music, and even just the background music in the Wizard of Oz. Like it's all just that like ooh, like spooky
Something weird's
house.
gonna
It goes
happen.
from the like is it sepia? Is that the like kind of yellowy but black and
Yeah,
white?
yeah.
Is that what it is? Sepia? Am I saying that right?
I don't know how to
Sepia?
say it. Something.
I don't.
Yeah, and then it's like,
Sepia? I don't
No
know.
idea.
But you know what I'm talking about, right? Like you can put that filter on like that. It goes from like that when like, the tornado comes to like color, but it's still, because it's so old, it's like that weird off color. It's just something about it. It's so, I
How
don't know.
old is that movie actually? Like what?
Oh, I don't know.
Do we have a date on the
I can look it
release
up.
of the original Wizard of Oz?
I can look it up. I don't know. It freaked me out. That's one where 1939.
39. That's what I thought. I thought it was pretty old. So even when my mom was watching it in the 60s, it was already
Yeah.
it was already almost 30 years old, which for perspective, that's like what? The Jurassic Park movies? Those were 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
those aren't super old, but they kind of show their age a little bit. So yeah, that's a long time ago.
Why did it stop? We stopped streaming for some reason. If I click on this, does it stop me?
it shouldn't. Did you hit enter? Or anything?
Oh, I hit enter.
Mhm.
But escape is my stop.
Oh. Then I don't know.
Weird.
Is it recording now?
Yeah, it's recording now.
Oh, okay.
We just had a little blip in there while we were looking up The Wizard of Oz. So The Wizard of Oz was 1939.
1939. That's a long time ago.
Yeah.
That is
I'm not a
long,
good
long time
producer.
ago.
It's
So
all
even
good.
I need to practice my producing skills.
well, this is your first run, so
It is.
you get one mess up. There it was.
All right.
So don't mess up anymore.
Oh, I see what it was. I didn't mess up. It's still recording. It said streaming.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's what it was. So we didn't even mess up. It was still
Nice.
going. So
Wow.
we're good.
All right. Well, you've got your one left still.
Yeah,
so
I can
that's
get my
good.
one back.
Excellent.
But yeah, no, those are just, yeah, those movies don't do anything for me. Always kind of freaked me out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, we're almost at an hour. So,
Cool.
Nice.
I
Very
mean,
cool.
yeah, thanks for coming and sitting, guys. And, we're looking forward to doing some more of these, probably on a weekly basis. So, I mean, I don't know, whenever people want to come in and sit down, we'll get
Mhm.
people in here to sit down and talk and go from there. So, thanks, guys, for coming in and
Sure.
sitting down.
Glad to do it. It was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, good. I'm
Very
glad.
fun.
And thanks for listening. We'll talk to you guys later.